I have to say, it's like Groundhog Day in here every time we discuss housing. It really is. I welcome the motion from the Independents for Change deputies. We support the motion. It's a good motion, but it's just every single time we talk about housing, it's exactly the same. The government comes back and says, yeah, things are bad, we appreciate things are bad, but they're getting better. And it takes time, but things are going to be better. And I mean, literally, we've been dealing with this response from this government and the previous government for years and years at this stage. And the situation is not getting better. The situation is getting worse, and the spin of the government is increasing because it has to try and bridge this gap between the propaganda and the reality, as the reality continues to get worse and the propaganda has to pretend that it's trying to that it's improving. Oliver Callan has a tweet which encapsulates the issue very, very well. He has an article from the end of 2017 with Taoiseach pledges 7,000 social homes in 2018. And then we have an article from, a couple of days ago, saying, with the Minister for Housing, Minister Murphy, saying that the number of new social homes are on target, with 4,000 social homes being delivered. And that's a very broad, expansive definition of what social housing is as well, illustrating that gulf between the reality and the propaganda of the government. And in my opinion, the only way out of this loop of Groundhog Day is a mass movement. We can and should continue to put motions, continue to put legislation, but it's not going to change the mind of the government, and it's not fundamentally going to change the mind of Fianna Fáil either, because 1 in 4 TDs in this place are landlords, even higher in terms of the cabinet, and the interest that they represent, not in terms of personal interest, but in terms of class interest, are the landlord class, are the developer class, are the banker class, and those people have an interest in the housing crisis continuing. And so a mass movement on housing is essential. It's the only way to force any change whatsoever. That's why I would say that the upcoming regional demonstrations and the demonstration in Dublin, organised by the National Homeless and Housing Coalition on Saturday the 9th of March at 2 p.m, with 3 meeting points of the Housing Agency on Mount Street, the GPO and City Hall, is extremely important, with the demands of public and affordable housing for all and an end to evictions and homelessness. I think that movement is developing, it's coming. I think the energy that you saw on the streets in support of the nurses and midwives and paramedics last Saturday will also feed in and be seen on those demonstrations. I want to raise one particular case that I've raised before in here, which I think is an extreme illustration of the scale of the problem of the housing crisis, which is constituents of mine in Talacross, which in properties owned by TUA, which is it's transitional housing out of homelessness. So it's people who've been living in hotels or homeless hubs are put into transitional housing with 18-month effective leases. And at the end of these leases, they get notices to quit, they're pursued through the PRTB, and they're threatened with eviction back into homelessness. So they're effectively still in homelessness, and they're threatened with going back into homelessness. We raised this before Christmas with the Minister, and the Minister said, no, nobody will be made homeless. Okay, nobody has been made homeless, but the threatening letters continue to come, and people are still faced with the process of prospect of being brought through the PRTB. I had a meeting with them just last week, and they're understandably concerned. The letters and the threats of evictions of people who are effectively already in homelessness back into worse homelessness need to stop.